Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me on today's episode of Love Code. Today I'm going to be talking about living together, something we know as cohabiting, living together before marriage. So what are the pros, what are the cons? In this part of the world, it's almost expected that when you're in a relationship with someone and it looks to be getting serious, you're almost expected to move in with that person. So I want to talk about that. I'll look at it from both sides, look at the arguments that people have for it, and then talk about the other side of it. But the bottom line for us is that as Christians, we need to look at these things from the scriptures. What does the Word of God say about things like this, and how do we interpret those and apply it to our lives? So we need to understand that as Christians, the rules are different for us. We play by a different set of rules. So we need to bear that in mind. And as we approach these things, it's a good thing to fall in love. It's a beautiful thing. But we need to also put boundaries in these things, the safe boundaries that will help the relationship be what it is that God intended for it to be. Okay, so let's jump right in. Some of the arguments that I hear for this is that primarily the first one is always we're trying to save money. Okay, so to try to save on the rent. So the two partners move in together and start to live together, and then they start to split the rent, and people always use that as an argument to say, if we just move in together, we're in love anyway, so if we just move in together, I'm already spending half of my time at this place, and vice versa. If we just move in together, we're going to save a lot on our rent and we're paying half of it. But what I always say is this: you see, moving in with someone that you're not married to is not the only way that you can save money. There are other things that you're spending money on that are not wise, if you like. So you need to look into other areas of your life and your spending patterns in other aspects, right? And it's not just that. That is not the only way that you're going to be able to save money. If you look very closely at some of your bank statements and the things that you've been spending money on, even just buying coffee and donuts and all those things repeatedly, you look at it and you add up all of those things, you would see major savings in all those different areas. That's just by the way. But my point here is that living with somebody you're not married to is not the only way to save money. Okay, so you have to be mindful of that. Now, if you must live with someone, you can always live with somebody who is not someone you are dating. There are people who do that, who have roommates. People have roommates that are just acquaintances or friends, as you like, right? That are not people that they are dating. Some with people of same sex. In fact, some people even have roommates of the opposite sex that they are not dating them or anything like that, right? Because they're in an apartment where there's a common room and there are different rooms, right? Some of those apartments even have like bathrooms, for each room. So people don't necessarily have to come out. So you can look into something like that. Don't let it be that this financial issue is going to be the major reason why you are taking this decision. Okay. Now the next thing that they always talk about is that I'm going to get to know this person better. I'm going to get to know this person better. Now, it sounds very nice. That if by the time we start to live together, we'll know each other better. When you start to live with somebody, you start to see things that you were not prepared for, especially when it is outside the boundaries of marriage. Now, the covenant of marriage is what is supposed to bond people together when they start to live together and begin to experience things about themselves. They are bound together by the covenant of marriage. That's why the Bible says, what God has joined together, let no man separate. So God joins people together when they go before a judge or a clergy and they sign a document to say we're getting married. There is a bonding that comes. There's a covenant. There's a joining together. So that keeps people together when they start to discover things about themselves that are not so pleasant. When they start to live together, they are able to walk their way through it because they've made vows. They have made commitments. But when you are living with somebody without commitment, you start to see things and your relationship starts to take a very different form. It starts to take a very different form. Everything just changes and you start to wonder, I thought I was in love with this person. So you want to be careful about that. Now, the way you can deal with this temptation of, I want to get to know this person better is to plan deliberate dates. Plan deliberate outings that you can use to get to know this person. Be deliberate about your dates. Go out and do activities, do fun things together, see a lot of, different scenarios. Do all sorts of things that can show you, the other side of this person in different ways of the person's life and what the person does and all of those different activities. So it's not just being in fact, being in the house, You're not going to get to know the things that you need to know before marriage by living with somebody in the same house. That's not the way it is done. So you need to put the person in different scenarios, go outside of your habitation, as it were, right, and see things together, experience life together, see different things together, and then preserve that aspect of living, actually cohabiting and living together. Preserve it for your marriage, preserve it for after the commitment has been made. And I'll get to that, the reason why I'm saying that. So I'm just exploring the arguments that people make for it. I'll still talk about the reasons why you shouldn't do it. I mean, I've also heard people say this, that we just want to move together because it feels right. It feels like the right thing to do. That feeling that you have about wanting to get closer to this person and being in the same space with this person is valid, but that feeling is calling for that desire that you have to say, oh, it just feels like the next best thing to do, right? That desire that you have is not for cohabiting, it is for union. That cohabiting is not the way to solve that problem. The way to solve it is to marry the person. So that feeling that you're having, that you just desire to always be with this person, that you just want to spend more time with this person, so you want to move in with them, that desire is better preserved for marriage. That is calling for a commitment from you. It is calling for a lifelong bond with this person. That's what it is. So it's not just, except it is lost, which is a different thing, which is just a desire to want to take the person to bed and sleep with the person. That's completely different. But if what you're saying is, it feels like I want to just get to know this person more, I want to spend more time with this person, right? That thing is a desire to get married to the person. So save it for the right time. In the meantime, get to know the person under other different circumstances that will not jeopardize your relationship, that will not jeopardize the things that certain aspects of your relationship that you should be preserving for marriage. So now let's look at some of the disadvantages of living together. The first thing is over-familiarity. When you're trying to get to know somebody better, if you do it without the covenant of marriage and start to live in the same house with that person, you become too familiar with the person. And you know what they say about familiarity? Familiarity breeds contempt. Familiarity breeds contempt. Now, I know that you may not have started the relationship wanting to disrespect the person in any way or to be contemptuous to the person. But once you start to live with the person, and you start to see certain things. You will see a lot of things by living with somebody in the same house. And that is what is supposed to be saved for the marriage union. That is supposed to be the fun of waking up after your wedding night the next day, and you start to see things. You start to see how the person brushes their teeth, what they do in the morning, what they do, and those experiences are, as I'm saying it now, it even sounds funny because many people have experienced all of these things even before there's any form of commitment. So there's nothing, those things no longer they are no longer appealing to people because it doesn't make any sense anymore. After people get married these days, it's just like another day, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be just another day. It's something you are supposed to be looking forward to, something exciting you're supposed to be looking forward to, and those discoveries are supposed to be joyful and exciting discoveries. I know because the world has come to a place now where even saying that it's not okay to be living with somebody you're not married to almost sounds like, how can you even say that? Because the world has gone so far into these things, nobody is talking about them anymore. Everybody wants to be politically correct. Everybody wants to be, safe, and nobody wants to go against the culture. But we play by the book. We play by the Bible. That's our own guide as Christians. So I'm not saying this for everybody. This is not a mainstream channel. It's not a mainstream idea. I'm telling you what Christians do, what is expected of a child of God, that wants to live for God and please God with their life. So this is how we play this game. We wait until marriage to do certain things, and we grow and learn and develop with the person that we have desired and that we have chosen and that we have made a commitment to. We have gone before God and before men and taken vows together, that we will love each other for the rest of our lives, to love, to hold, till death do us part. So this is extremely important. Now there's something very interesting that they say where I'm from Nigeria. So we have this colloquial expression, it's something called see finish. I like it so much, because it just defines what I'm trying to explain with over-familiarity. You see the person finish. It's pidgin, but it just, what it means is you've seen the end, almost like saying you've seen the end of the person. There's nothing new anymore. There's nothing else. So it just makes the person, become cheap to you. It cheapens everything. But if that familiarity happens in the confines of marriage, It's no longer over familiarity, because that is what is supposed to happen. It is when it happens outside marriage that it is over familiarity. But when it's taking place in the confines of marriage, it is actually what is supposed to be. So you don't want to use up that before you get married, okay? So that's all that I'm trying to express here. Now, the next thing is the fact that there's really no incentive for commitment. When you start to live with somebody before they marry you, or before you marry the person, there's no incentive anymore for commitment, especially where the guy is concerned. There's nothing, I mean, if you're already living with the person, you know, he's already getting the benefits of marriage without having to marry you. What's the point, you know, of marrying you? When you start talking about marriage, it just sounds like, okay, what else do you want? You know, I mean, we already live in the same house. We already, you know, and then people now get to the point where they are only getting married for legal reasons, for documentation, you know, to merge assets or to do all those things. When marriage becomes just a transaction, it is a problem, because marriage was never meant to be a transaction. It is meant to be a covenant. Marriage is not supposed to be a transaction. Marriage is a covenant, right? So once you start to do it that way, you have gone against what the boundaries of what God intended for marriage to be. That was not the purpose of marriage. The purpose of marriage, as far as God is concerned, is for two people to become one flesh and to come together and mirror what exists between Christ and the church. That's the essence of marriage, so that, you know, you can procreate and raise godly children and all of those different things that we've talked about in other videos before. So those are the reasons for marriage, and you want to keep that in mind and make sure that you're playing the game by those rules. So please give the guy some incentive. This scenario of living together with somebody you're not married to is very okay for a guy. Guys don't really mind, but you see, for a girl, it's bad. It's a bad thing for a woman, because you see, a woman is a peculiar creature. She is blessed by God, and there is value, there's virtue in a woman. If you put yourself in that situation before a guy marries you, you are cheapening your worth and your value before that guy. He might not admit to you physically, but the truth is that in his mind, somebody who he just meets and he falls in love with will become more precious in his sight to him than you that he has been living with, because he doesn't have any commitment to you. He hasn't married you, and you have already given him all these things. But there is someone who he has now met, who the hunter instinct in him now wants to go after. He sees that as more precious, more valuable, because that person is still withholding certain things from him. So he will be going after that with all of his heart. But you who, you know, you are doing everything, there's no commitment, but you are just living in the house, you are cooking, you are cleaning, you are doing everything, you know, you are quarantined together for 2 months, you are sleeping with him, you are doing everything, you are reducing your worth. I know I might be coming at you hard, but this is just the truth, and there's no other way to say it. If you are in that scenario, you need to try to walk your way out of it. You see, one of the benefits of marriage for a woman is to have a covering, a protection. The Bible mentions that. It's a protection for women. It's almost like a protection, a covering for her. Because you see, if a woman waits until she's 50, there are certain things that are supposed to take place in her body before that time that will not be able to take place after 50. A guy can marry at 50 years old. A guy can marry at 50. But a woman, if you hear that a woman got married at 50 years old, you will say, wow, this is amazing. Because it is amazing. It's amazing. It's a testimony for a woman to get married at 50. So you as a guy can still go and marry somebody who's younger than you and get her pregnant. But for a woman, it becomes a big challenge when a woman is trying to have kids at that age. So you don't want to, you know, just live with somebody, let her have the children, her body has changed completely, and then one day you just wake up and say, you know what, we're 50-something now, I'm not even interested in you anymore, I'm just going to go and find somebody else. I mean, you can start again, but the woman can't start from the scratch. So the marriage covenant is a protection for her. Okay? Matthew 7 verse 6, the Bible talks about not casting your pearl before swine. Not casting, you know, holy things before dogs. You need to be very careful. Know your worth, know your value, and stick to that. Alright? Sometimes it might mean, you know, a change of the way the guy is behaving might change. Then you see the true color of it. Then you know that, I mean, if the guy is making demands and you say, no, we have to do things properly, and then he starts to change his behavior, he stops talking to you, then you know that the guy was not really the one. He was not really interested. So there's a level of, you know, commitment that somebody has to put. I mean, if you see something that you really, really desire, you will be able to put a down payment on it. That's what God did for us with the Holy Spirit, because he gave us the Holy Spirit as a down payment to say, so that you know that I'm coming back for you. Have this, that's what it is all about. So you must be able to make some form of commitment. Now let's talk about sexual intimacy. This is something that happens when people start to live together. And if you're there, you're saying, oh, but I'm not going to sleep with him. I mean, we're just going to be, you are deceiving yourself. That's hypocrisy. You're just deceiving yourself. It's something my friends and I used to call who is fooling who, which is an expression that just simply means you are deceiving yourself. I mean, in your heart, you know that this is going to happen. So there's no way that you will be in the same house with somebody, in the same, confinement, seeing the person every day over and over again, dressed, undressed, and different scenarios, and you say you're not going to sleep with the person. So that issue of sexual intimacy is a major issue, because once you start becoming sexually intimate with someone that you're not married to, you are sharing a part of yourself with that person. And there is you are depositing something, and in your mind you might say, oh, but we're going to eventually get married. What if you don't get married? What if? And even if you get married, trust me, when you do get married, you will wish in your heart sometimes that, maybe it would have been nice for us to have just, waited through this thing for a little longer. Because the truth is that when time is in the future, it looks so far. But when you think about it in hindsight, it looks like, what was that? That was a short period of time. I could have just waited, right? So you want to be extremely careful. This thing called sex is very, very delicate. If we trivialize it, then it loses its value, it loses its meaning. That's when people start to invent all sorts of different things, because they've trivialized it. They've done everything they're supposed to wait after marriage to do before they got married. So when they get married, there's nothing. So they have to start, inventing things that were not meant to be. Right? I won't say more than that. Genesis chapter 4 verse 1, the Bible says, Adam knew Eve. There is a knowing. There is a knowing that is only meant for the confines of marriage. When you start to live with someone before they marry you, the person knows you too much. You know the person too much. So you need to be watchful about that and be mindful of it. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about today that is a disadvantage of living with somebody before you marry them is the issue of breakup. Breakups are more difficult. Breakups are more difficult. They are bitter when people have lived together. Have you noticed that the people that you dated, that you didn't sleep with, it's easy to forget them. You forget about them. Like it's not a problem. You let go of those ones, right? It is when sexual intimacy has been involved, or something as an encounter of sorts, right? It lingers a little bit longer. How much more when you have lived with somebody? It's almost like a divorce. It's almost like you are trying to separate people's souls, and it is so tough. It becomes extremely difficult, and it spirals and spirals. Sometimes it even leads into the next relationship that the person has, and then things are just extremely difficult. So you want to be mindful of that. These are just a few of the reasons, right, why you need to think about this very well. Don't let money be the driver of your decision. There's so many other ways, so many other avenues that you can save money. Okay, so I hope with these 3 points of mine I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you. I know it may have sounded a bit harsh and hard, but it is the truth. Don't forget what I said. We are children of God. We need to play by the rules of the book. If you are in that situation, don't feel condemned. All I need you to do is to begin to think about how you're going to get yourself out of it. Sit down with your partner and let them understand that this is not the best for us. This is not the best scenario for us. Let's work on getting ourselves out of it and begin to put measures in place. So you'll be better off for it at the end of the day. Okay, so you want to start working on that. And if you have not put yourself in that place, you are not there yet, or you are thinking about it, it's a no-go area. Don't do it. Okay, give yourself that dignity, give yourself that space, and you will be, by the time you guys eventually get married, you'll be glad you watched this video. You'll be glad you took my advice. All right, if you enjoyed it, make sure you share it with somebody that that may or may not be in this situation, but that may be blessed by just watching this. Okay, all right guys, thank you very much once again for watching today. Like the video if you do, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you know when I have a new video out. I usually have new videos out these days on Sundays at 6 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. Sundays 6 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, I have a new video out every week. If you turn on your notifications, you would get a notification from YouTube when the video goes up, so you will know, and then you can watch it and be a part of it. I will see you again next week. Until then, God bless you.